And this is really, when you think about AI, there is a language that is very different than code because it is about going to the most basic level to start. So I like to use the peanut butter and jelly sandwich analogy. How do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? What is the first thing you need to do? And it's to have a plan. You have to have a recipe, right? You need to have money to go to the store. You need to have a ride to the store to get your stuff, right? You're going and peeling back the layers with code, like the new coding of AI is peeling back those layers all that way and remembering that you're instructing something, how to do something for the first time. And when you get that instruction where you understand how to do that with AI, you're going to be able to build upon it a lot faster.
Hey, welcome back to tomorrow's Best Practices Today. Our guest today is Melissa McCready. And Melissa is currently spinning up HLX, a consulting firm where they work with go-to-market operators on CRM implementations, focusing on data architecture, quality, governance for growth-focused companies, high-growth young companies. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, about who she's working with and how that's going. You may have already heard from Melissa. She's a known public speaker in our space, most recently speaking at B2B MX, but you may have heard her at marketingops.com or at Sweet World, Lead Space, Marketo back in the day, Forrester. She's got a great, strong career in sales, marketing, leadership, and sharing her point of views. She's a real get for us. We're so happy to have her here on the podcast today. Welcome, Melissa. Thanks for joining us.
Clark, thanks so much for having me. And to the audience, it's always a pleasure. And hopefully you'll enjoy our conversation today.
I know they will. I know they will, because you're always eyeball deep in so many topics that are going to be of interest to our audience. So let me just start there, I guess. What are you currently working on that you're excited about that you would share with our universe of marketers and go-to-market experts?
Well, you alluded to the fact that I am eyes deep in things, and that's exactly what's happening with me right now. And the practice that I'm working with, HLX, we call it Helix Consulting, is a part of a lab group where what we do is we consult on the go-to-market piece, and then there are other brands within the lab that we're also servicing and helping get off the ground, which is really exciting. Plus, we're working with clients. So with that being said, we're doing a whole bunch of things go-to-market, and some of the newer things really getting focused on our AI and how we're going to leverage AI for automation mainly, because that's where I see the biggest opportunity for now in AI is in automation.
And so how often are folks already they're ready to get on the AI journey but they don't know where to start, versus they've got themselves maybe a bit tangled up and now they're ready to get serious with a partner with who can bring expertise, versus maybe they're really humming along. Where do you see the AI readiness, kind of the range of readiness in your, well, I guess in your sub universe, but in the market in general today?
I believe that people are at just the beginning stage of it. You're going to have early adopters, but those are few and far between, quite honestly. I think what people are trying to make sense of is, what does it replace versus what does it do? And that is where I think people get held up, because it's not a replacement, it's an enrichment, it's an enhancement. It's something that is going to be alongside you as a co-pilot. So funny I said co-pilot, right? So with AI, I think that there are stepping stones that people are starting to jump onto. I think there, again, some early adopters that I've been keeping a close eye on myself, just seeing the different things that they're doing. And most importantly, you have to play. So this, just like CRM and marketing automation, when these things came up, I was at the very beginning of that. So before Salesforce, there was Siebel. I was in Siebel. I was in Sales Logics, I was in ACT databases, right? And then moving
Act.
forward
Yes.
into marketing automation, and I was on Siebel Marketing, and then it was all these different, ESPs and different marketing platforms started coming around. So it's very interesting because it's like that next wave of things, which I like to call and it's almost an industrial revolution, quite honestly, with AI, because
Hmm.
it's something that really is going to be transformative to everybody that is using it.
Yeah. Well, automation, to your point of AI as a vector for automation. The promise of automation is always eliminate the drudgery,
Yeah.
right? Spend your time, spend your valuable cycles, spend your insight and intellect on the stuff that moves the needle, and automate away all the drudgery. But I think that because AI, there's such a strong dimension of AI that is about the intelligence, right?
Mhm.
It's about the insight that it trips people up a little bit. It all starts with data. It all starts with the ability of the data to be digested so that any model can learn, right? So you can train it, which you mentioned as well. And so how do you talk to your clients about all these different moving pieces? It's about, it's what you do or don't do. It's where the data is or isn't, or what you do or don't have. How do you make sure you're not just automating a shitty, sorry, you're not just automating a broken process and doing it faster. People are involved, technology's involved. Do you, how do you start in with a client to take on all of these different moving pieces?
I think the first approach to remember is that change management is going to be the hardest part about all of it. So, coming up with a game plan and spelling out for people what is involved to do something. It's no different than any other project you do with that approach. The difference is in understanding the context of it, right? So, when we get to AI, the conversation starts with data. We start talking about structured versus unstructured data. So, data that is this is consistent. These are things that are in a pick list versus things are in just a general text field. And I think that the better that you can get at understanding your data set to understand what you might be able to do to move things around for things like marketing personalization, keeping people in a sales cadence, right? So a sequence for doing outbound sales, a sequence for sales renewal, a sequence for getting a nice high score from customer success. These are all areas that can be enriched by AI, but data is at the heart of it. It's the backbone, it's the neural system of it. Then there's also another piece, which is you need to learn how to feed AI. So feeding AI is like there's different types of plants. I'm going to use analogies for this. So with plants,
Mhm.
right? Some have more sunlight, some have less sunlight, some like uh, more minerals in the soil than others do. Some require more watering than others, right? And this is really when you think about AI, there is a language that is very different than code because it is about going to the most basic level to start. So I like to use the peanut butter and jelly sandwich analogy. How do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? What is the first thing you need to do? And it's to have a plan. You have to have a recipe, right? You need to have money to go to the store. You need to have a ride to the store to get your stuff, right? You're going and peeling back the layers with code, like the new coding of AI is peeling back those layers all that way and remembering that you're instructing something, how to do something for the first time. And when you get that instruction where you understand how to do that with AI, you're going to be able to build upon it a lot faster. So, an example would be I need to write a sales sequence that sends out an email that invites somebody to an event where I'm calling 3 days later. I'm following up by email 3 days later if they're not picking up the call, right? That's basic. Now you can go to the next level of that. I'm going to train AI to learn how to utilize my voice to leave a voicemail. Those are some of the really cool things that I'm seeing. They're a little creepy at the same time too. You're like, am I talking
Right.
to a bot?
Right.
Am I talking to a real person? Right? It's like going through TikTok and figuring out like, is that AI generated or not? So there's a point of the way that you coach it, you're basically having it mimic you versus it's not replacing you, it's mimicking you because let's be honest, it's not really artificial intelligence. It's a learning machine right now. It can get there, but it's going to take time. We're not going to be seeing in general use, of course. We're not going to be seeing general use where you're just going to be able to take something and say, do this, and it's going to know all the different nuances of how you want something done. So it's just a different game. But the approach is the same. It's what are the
Yeah.
things you need to know? People, process, technology, and data. That's your approach to
Yeah.
every project. We need to identify, define those things, understand what our goals and objectives are, and then what are the outcomes that we're looking for, and then what is the effort to get there.
What's the soft side of all this, or what is that, talk to me about that part of change management, the human change management, because this is technology adoption, unlike anything really that they've typically had to learn just to learn how to do uh, to do their job better, because they still are sort of owning doing their job, and they're going to lose some of that. How do you talk to them about that? Do you see that as a big hang up? Are people still there
I
past that?
think it's
How's that working?
well, I'm going to give you the consultant version of this. It depends. But I do think if we talk about
You'll come in and you'll review it for 3 or 4 weeks, and then we'll have an initial finding and right.
sort of, I think it's more of the conversation up front of crawl, walk, run. So the
Mm-hmm.
way that I like to get people started in AI is to say, if there was something that you could get off your plate besides doing the sale for you, because everyone's like, have it sell for me and meet all my goals for me, right? People get really funny in their responses. But crawl, walk, run. What is something that if you could take it off your plate, what would it be? So let's talk about one of those things, because I think this is an interesting one, and there have been certainly solutions for this, but there are better solutions coming aboard because of AI. So if you think about scheduling tools, so I want to be able to send an email that if somebody responds to me, that it will automatically go and say, oh, it recognized it had this language in there because maybe I use a common term. So if I put, here's my Calendly to schedule, right? And somebody goes into that Calendly to schedule, I would have thought about what can I use with AI to personalize that message? What can I use that will not just send them the invite, but it would also log maybe some sort of, ticket for task or activity management in my CRM. And oh yeah, it adds them to a list for me of people to follow up with and creates a follow-up. If you think about like all those different things that could happen, now you've taken off my plate that extra step I have to go to make sure and check like, oh yeah, this got sent. And oh, what was in the message? I'm not sitting there going, okay, so in Calendly, I put some things in and yeah, there's a little bit of follow-up, but was there any sort of action items or any sort of things that I need to collect before that meeting? Um,
Mm-hmm.
do I need to update my CRM because I'm in the middle of a sales cycle for this conversation? Or I'm in the middle of a project and I need to log an action item out of that. So if you think about those sorts of things that are PIAs for people, it's just busy work. That's where I
Yeah.
like to get people started. I try to find the low-hanging fruit of things that will feel better because they have AI, not because it's something that's going to take something away. It's going to take something away they don't really want in the first place. And so getting people into AI that way is a much healthier approach to do it, because then they start going, oh, I could do this. It's all about getting the transformational mindset of I can do these things differently. What are those things? And start listing them out as an individual. And then thinking about it, okay, we've gotten there. Let's show each other like different things that we did. Let's talk about how we're using it for business transactions. So I described the one with Calendly, right? All the different systems are getting updated because I send this one email out. I've got AI built to do all
Mm-hmm.
these other things for me. Let's go further than that. Okay, let's take it 3 steps ahead of that. So, what does my forecast look like differently because I did those things? Am I getting more time back? These are those top level, what the executives care about is bottom line margin. Are these things that are making people more productive? Are they increasing our margins? Are they saving us time where we're able to focus on things that are more revenue generating? You get to that discussion a lot faster taking that stair step approach, taking that we're going to crawl, walk, run, instead of just trying to go at it and be like, we're going to go and we're going to put AI in and
Yeah.
we're going to use AI for these things. Let people try things out, point them to things. So, one thing that is really important here is understanding what you're measuring when you're putting AI in. So, you're not just putting AI in to put it
Yes.
in. I'm seeing that
Yeah.
happen where people are like, "Oh, I could do this." I'm like, "And how much time did you spend to do that? And how much time did it save you?" It didn't do anything. Now, mind you, that's a little
Right.
contradicting because maybe some of those things for yourself are things that don't do things for other people as you're getting started,
Right.
but it should naturally progress and evolve where somebody is going to use it for business as a part of doing that approach is like, let's get started here. We need to move you a little bit here and then a little bit here and a little bit here. And then
Well, and
Mhm.
as you were pointing out earlier, that it's about not just the efficiency of doing it faster, like particularly at the end of the day, knowing if you've improved things is what did we get and what did it cost us and
Mhm.
what did we get out of it, right?
Right.
And so it's about the effectiveness as well. Like, what are
Absolutely.
you doing something you weren't able to do before? And I know that that's a big focus of the consultancy is being kind of outcome oriented, measurement oriented.
Yes.
AI right now is everyone is still trying to get their arms around it in general, how it's going to impact their organizations themselves, their jobs, etc. How do you talk to folks about it? What measurement systems do you put up? What metrics do should leaders be looking at to know how they're doing on their AI journey?
I think that in putting those metrics in, they shouldn't be different than what you're doing for the business. It should be the impact on those things. So baselining and then saying, did those things improve? And coming up with
Yeah.
clear goals. You shouldn't be creating a whole new set of metrics around AI at this point. I think I make a prediction that that could change over time as people use it more, that we will get into AI stats. We're not there yet. So we need to keep our eyes focused on the things that matter the most to the business with KPIs. So, for example, like I'll do the controversial one MQLs. Some people are anti MQL, some people are pro. I'm somewhere in the middle on it because I feel like it depends on the business and the evolutionary path that they're on, like, and how long they've been doing it for and what they have all behind it. But from an MQL perspective, if
Yeah.
I'm trying to do modeling to understand what type of volume do I need to bring in net new names or to take existing names and nurture, what does that volume look like to get me to what my revenue goal is? I need to know those things no matter AI or not. And so I think if we look at those and say, okay, did we have less leads but higher conversions? Did we have more leads and less conversions? That would be the thing I would be looking at. The baseline compared to once you put AI in, how is it changed? It should be business goal oriented as much as possible. Again, I kind of contradict myself because I say, like, getting started, there is a point you have to get started. And then as far
Yeah.
as overall measurement, I think what's so hard right now is that there are a lot of companies, and this isn't even early growth companies. I've worked with companies that have been around 20 plus years. They do not have their data straight and they have outdated processes. And so this is the point with AI is you're just piling on poop when you're doing that. And so let's not do that, please. Let's make sure that there's a foundational restructuring if it needs to be there, and that AI isn't being tossed on something to fix something that isn't fixable because that you're solving for a symptom and not a root cause. So I think one of the things with AI is that there's this perception that people have that it could fix things faster. And over time, it's
Yeah.
just going to get better and better.
Well, and it's not like all of that. I mean, so what AI opens up for folks that they don't think about, if they can get, once they get over the hump of what it can do for them, and that we want to try this, the prerequisites are clean data, clear processes, and both of those things are the complete um, accumulation of every different good, bad, unsupported decision you've made around data management
Mhm.
or around even defining your processes. And so you inherit, you have to take all of that inherited data, structured and unstructured, and somehow get it to a common denominator that it can get sucked into your AI. You got to take all of these processes and think all the way back to what was assumed in them. To your point, you can't just give a general direction to AI. You have to think, peel that layer of the onion back as to what the true mission, the true reason you're doing this is, why, what the target is, all this stuff. All that stuff has to be retouched again. All that stuff you haven't had to dig into, right, in order to apply AI. And that's part of the back pressure that I see is just like, oh my God, when you really start doing something that isn't just sort of a cocktail party trick with this stuff, and you're really going to get in and run your business with it, you have to live, you inherit the mistake of all your ancestors,
Yes.
and have to get it all straightened out to move forward.
What's interesting,
Well,
Clark,
thank
as well,
goodness that Helix is there to help.
we definitely are. I think what is also very interesting is that companies hit growth spurs. And when they do that, there are things that have to get adjusted foundationally. And I think this is one of the things when you look at a business and you look at like how it's evolved. If a business is shifting gears where, let's say that they have a reoccurring revenue model, and then now they're moving to a non-recurring revenue model, and they're going to mix these two businesses, that changes things, right? Um, Inputting like a new service, inputting any sort of new physical product. Anytime that you're introducing change, just like anything that it comes down to with process and systems and people and data, you have to revisit it. And so this is, I think, really interesting about operations and why I really focus my career on it, because I saw it as the backbone of the business. We're the neural system. And everybody has to input into these things, and everybody has to know what they mean, and everybody should be able to use the output to understand the performance of what they're doing. So those things are
Yeah.
great when they are working right. But as you grow and your business changes and the markets shift, it's very important that those things shift. And I think from an operations perspective, this is where companies get held up the most, is that their operations are not aligned with what their business objectives are, to an extent
Mm-hmm.
that they are not able to measure the right things or root cause things. And I think root causing is such a big thing for me when I'm going in, because if I look and I say, okay, your sales are down. Well, why are your sales down? Let's look. You don't have enough pipeline. Why don't you have enough pipeline? You have sales reps underperforming? Maybe your sales process, you're asking the wrong question because the market has shifted and there's a new competitor in there, and that new competitor is asking a different question and it's differentiating them very quickly in the sales cycle. Or maybe it is that the SDRs didn't qualify it well enough. Or maybe it is that it came in as an MQL and it should have been. And let's go deeper. Let's go into marketing. Let's talk about the customer side of things, right? Because all these things are interrelated, and it goes into why it's so complicated, why it's so hard to pick an entry point to get into AI. It's because a lot of times companies operationally aren't really built the way that they need to be. And once they get there, it changes over time. So it's like you're constantly
Right.
chasing this goalpost, but it is when you structure operations around how you want to grow your company, it is going to accelerate what you do. No questions asked.
So let's just start with at the beginning. How do you define growth ops? How is that different from, is that marketing ops plus sales ops? Is it RevOps? Is it something different? What's the difference between growth ops and all these other ops?
Growth ops is the complete orchestration of the business operationally. It's like the new COO 2.0, where instead of being so focused operationally on like the legal and the accounting and finance of a COO typically has historically, now we're moving into this era of growth operations is looking across all those areas of the business and how they're orchestrated together to move things as quickly and efficiently as possible with the highest amount of margin, quite honestly, and the highest amount of customer long-term value and low customer acquisition cost. That's what people are talking about. You're seeing a huge trend up with customer success. One of the things Helix did was it acquired one of the greatest customer success companies out there called Growth Molecules. And so we're working and partnered. Helix and Growth Molecules are partnered together to work so that we're getting a complete visibility from the customer perspective. Then we need to look at it from a partner perspective. We need to look at it from just a general business. We need to look at it from the employee perspective. So growth operations is literally like the overarching umbrella for RevOps, go-to-market ops, sales ops, marketing ops, partner ops, all the ops, right? So
If you got ops,
it is. It's
growth
like,
ops is for you.
what the ops? So I think when we get, it's crazy because when RevOps was coming about, I had this conversation with some of the people who were very influential in getting revenue operations as the coin term. And I kept saying, man,
Yeah.
it's really limiting. And the reason it's so limiting is because it's very selfish. It's about revenue. Well, when you talk about revenue to a client, it's kind of off-putting, isn't it? You're just like, don't you care about growth? Growth is a shared thing. Growth is a thing that brings people together, right? When you have shared experience, you grow from those things. You don't care about, I mean, you do. Everyone cares about revenue at the end of the day, running a business. But if you think about it from growth, you get a lot more value out of growth than you do revenue. So let's go into an example. So market
Yeah.
demand funds, MDFs, partners, right? So one of the things that happens is there's a holdup to get a PO to do a MDF request, get that approved, get that paid out to the partner, and go through all the things. And so it's a holdup. So if you can fix those things that are holdups, you would not look at a RevOps person and be like, can you fix that necessarily? You'd be like, man, who do I turn to for that? And if you think about growth operations, you think of that definition and the way that I describe that, it would make sense, right? Some
Yeah.
RevOps organizations are more involved than others, but I do think that if we're going to shoot in a direction in operations to take us to that executive, to take us to that, integral board seat as an ops person being a part of that team, that it needs to be all encompassing and there can be focus zones, but it needs to be all encompassing. And that's why I made the comment earlier about it's the new COO, which is really exciting. And I don't think we're going to call it a chief growth officer. Marketing kind of grabbed that. Ops needs to
Right.
be in the title. So maybe it's just COO. We'll see. I'm very
Well,
excited.
I agree, and I think that this is the right it's the right attitude and the right denominator to put on all of this stuff, right? Is what's the shared growth together? It's a universal concern to the firm, to your clients and customers, to your partners, right? It's a shared culture. Um, and, and folks that kind of have come up on a more traditional ops um, career path, say. I mean, I know you do a lot of advising to company leaders, firm leaders, but I know you do a lot of mentoring for folks on their career path as well. So how do you talk to people earlier in their career path about how they can set themselves up for this broad-based growth ops lens to their career and thriving in it?
So it depends on the stage of the career, but let's start from like your first 5 years and you're getting started out and you think you want to be in operations. Get a very wide breadth of experience in the functional areas. So if you're in sales and you have an opportunity to be like, I can shadow or I can do something where I'm learning about the AP process, I'm learning about legal contracts, I'm learning a bit about marketing. Become a generalist as much as possible to really understand the functions of a business, because you need to understand that to then scale it back to, let's go to the ops level, right? The ops level is like, again, it's a neurosystem. So if you think about all these things, it's like, here's an arm and here's a leg and here's the spine and the brain. How do these things all work together? It's getting a general understanding of each of those functional areas. And then I think as you move forward, and maybe it's at the 3 year, maybe it's a 5 year, it just depends on the types of business people are in. Sometimes it's longer than that. Typically you'll go into, all right, I need to, as somebody moving up in my career, you need to be able to teach it. So I think with people coming into this from a career growth, you need to get to the muscle memory and get to the muscle memory on the areas that you want to be focused in, but make sure that you're trying those other areas out and getting at least an understanding where you would know how to have a conversation with somebody cross departmentally, because that cross departmental communication, the your effectiveness there is the difference between somebody who's going to move up into leadership than somebody who will not, as a soft skill.
I think I'm concerned that so much of how folks began their careers in ops, in law, in marketing, in anything is you do that drudgery work, right? You do the work and you get the muscle memory, but AI is going to take a lot of that, right? And so
Yes.
the muscle memory without the ability to interact and motivate, influence without authority, communicate across, run a project plan. It's just, it's not going to be enough to just be like, this is somebody that's not very plugged in, but they're really good at this one little thing that's important to the company. That's the specific sort of stuff that organizations will love to get pushed off to AI. And so I love that you pull forward the project management, the communication aspects, because and that's across, right? That's just good advice for anybody in their earlier in their career, probably in almost
I
any
think at
any
any point in
segment.
our career that we can
Yeah,
use that brush up, right? And I've gone
and
through
later
those
as well,
cycles.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
some of the biggest, I would say, jump points for me in my career were going through training on how to communicate at an executive level, how to say no without saying no, how to solve conflict without creating conflict, right? And I think that negotiation's another big one. Those are three areas that if you can get really good at those things, listen to the podcast, read the people who are out there influencing and bringing forward the great information and consolidating it for us, right? I mean, I have so many of these people. It's like, so marketingops.com, huge fan. I have leaned more towards marketing ops probably in the past couple years than I did previously in my career. So going to the communities to find the right people to listen to, the people who are speaking to something and you were like, oh, they get it. I'm following them, right? Because you may find that there's this person who's amazing, but they're so far in a different direction in their career, perhaps, or just like
Yeah,
they've been there longer. What they're saying may not resonate with you. You may find that
yeah,
somebody who's been in it as long as you may be better at coaching you along and giving you good advice because they're in it in the moment. They may be better at giving you that advice than somebody who's got 20 years on them. So, one of the big things I've learned in mentoring is it's a two-way street. It is the most rewarding thing to be able to do, because for somebody to come in and say like, I want to learn from you, I don't think like there's no amount of money that gives you that feeling. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe I could be
It's
bought. Maybe $1 billion, but I digress.
no, no, no. I agree. It's super. Yeah, it's super humbling and kind of and gratifying, right?
Yes.
That's the biggest thing. I haven't had a straight job in like almost 10 years now. I've been advising, consulting with folks, and it's the biggest thing that I miss is developing employees, hiring great folks. Uh, Helping figure out how this team that they're on with me is like the one they'll be talking about in 20 years when they're mentoring folks, right? All that people, people to people, personal stuff is what's really gratifying at the end of the day.
And I think the
um,
communities give people like us who are consulting, and I mean, there's a lot of mentoring and coaching that goes into consulting too. But I think if you're really kind of looking for that more one-on-one, I wouldn't say totally formal, but more formal, like Pavilion, Women in Revenue, marketingops.com. Like these are communities that have Women Wednesday, Wednesdays Women, sorry. These
mhm.
are communities that foster those relationships that are great to go and check out and have active mentoring programs in them, which is amazing. You can be a mentor, you can be a mentee, whatever it is. But those opportunities are out there. I think it's just one of those things that when you learn working with others and how to train other people, it really helps you up your own game because now you've got to live by your words. You can't get away with it. You're like, I have to do as I say, it can't be the shoemaker's kids not wearing the shoes. It really gives you some accountability too, right? If I say somebody should do something, if I'm not doing it myself, well, that's not good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's absolutely right. Well, so obviously a big part of the community here, the Lead Tell TV community and the Tomorrow's Best Practices Today community, is about just as these shared resources. So hearing these shared stories and insights that you shared with Melissa, but also these resources. So, gang, if you missed it, rewind back and listen to Melissa's list there of those terrific communities and resources and places to share and get mentorship. I know one other thing that we spoke about was the coursework, leadership coursework, etc. And I know I think that you'd like to bring up a particular set of coursework to discuss as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I have been quietly in the background working on a RevOps leadership course, and I'm calling it RevOps because that's where I think there is the most need for it at the time, but it's really focused on leadership. And the leadership aspect, what's so important about this, we were talking about it earlier, are the soft skills. So the negotiations, those sorts of things. But what this course does is it takes you through, we talked about the earlier stage in the career and then mid stage and then getting towards the end and getting towards the real getting into leadership stuff. And it helps people walk through kind of keeping them accountable for the things that they should know, but it also is flexible enough where it's like, if you're going to go more marketing ops, then you're going to go sales ops. What does that look like? What are the areas that you need to focus in on differently than if you're doing all those things together? Because usually in RevOps, you're going to find sales and marketing ops first. Sometimes channel ops is in there. Customer ops is definitely coming up very, very quickly. I think it's one of the fastest growing areas because of the fact that the economy and the markets are unpredictable. So we don't know where we're going to get new business from. So you're really having to focus on, nurturing that existing business and growing the existing business.
Yeah.
So with RevOps and leadership in together, it's really, my goal for this is very personal in the sense that as I'm exiting out of my career, maybe in the next, I don't know, I'm kind of predicting this, like, let's call it 15 years, that I leave some sort of legacy behind where there are people who are way better than me in 15 years at what I'm doing today, right? That they're so much better because I was able to come in and say like, hey, here are the things that you need to know now that are so critical and things that are going to help you in your career. And they're just going to be able to pile on top of those things and grow their career. So I'll go back to my figure skating analogy here one last time, which is that if you look at the figure skaters from like the 80s and 90s, they were not doing quadruple jumps, right? And guess who's teaching them the quadruple jumps? Not necessarily people who did them, right? So it's really interesting that the coaches are coaching things they never did themselves to get people further. And those are the coaches that they're using. And it's the same thing when in business, in the sense of like, that's the whole point. And that's really my personal reason for doing it. I would love to see growth ops really become the name of it. And I've been pushing it for quite some time. My joke is always, hey, Gretchen, stop trying to make fetch happen. If you are a Mean Girls fan, that is really what I feel like at times. But then people get it and then they're on board and they're using the term. And I'm like, is this real? So I think this RevOps leadership course is something that I have been doing for a little bit. Probably since about last September, I started taking individuals through it on a one-on-one coaching basis, and we're going to be expanding that out. So stay tuned on that. And
how do folks find out more? How do they just get in touch with you?
Get in touch with
obviously
me.
your contact information will be here with the podcast, or is there? Yeah.
Yeah, and
let them
get
know.
in touch with me because the other thing we're doing too is I'm going to be offering some incentives for people to try it out. And so I'm looking for folks who may be early adopters to give
Hmm.
feedback on the course. And as a result of it, it may be a lower cost to do those things. So to get it really to a certification level and then expanding that certification where perhaps it could be at universities. It definitely will go out to, the communities that are out there. But I'm looking for, revenue operations. I'm looking for growth operations to become a
Yeah.
real career that's studied in college where people are going and they're being given the things they need to know where they have this path already created for them. Because those of us who've been in it, we didn't have the path who've been in it for, let's just call it 10 years. The path wasn't there.
Yeah.
So this is a new thing, and I'm really looking forward to just putting, the Melissa McCready stamp on it, not to sound
Yeah.
selfish in doing that, just so I'm like, I can pat myself on the back. I did something good in business. I didn't just make people money. Like we made people successful. Like there's a difference
Yeah.
between those two things. So
Leave this place a better place, right? Well, you heard it here,
exactly.
gang. Get in on the ground floor, the growth ops as a career path, the leadership course. Get in touch with Melissa. She'd love to have you to bring you into the army, the growth ops army. Golly, I knew it was going to be a great conversation, Melissa. Thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
your time away. I know from growing Helix, from your speaking, from building this course. I know how many plates you're spinning. We really appreciate you making the time with us, sharing some insights with the gang here, and just appreciate you. Thank you for all
Thanks.
your
I
insight.
appreciate you too. Thank you for this opportunity. And to the audience out there, go grow.
That's great. Thank you, Melissa. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.